we'd like to take this opportunity to officially welcome you to today's session, Make Your Ideas Heard: How to Gain Support and Increase Your Visibility. And with us today is Professor Riitta Katila. She is a professor in the Department of Management Science and Engineering here at Stanford and faculty director of the Stanford Technology Ventures program. She's an expert on technology strategy, innovation, and learning issues in firms, including achieving short-term and long-term organic growth. Riitta, so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Robin. Excited to do this. And hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the webinar. So today, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity to introduce a few ideas around innovation. We do a lot of thinking. We do a lot of research around innovation at Stanford. Innovation makes or breaks great organizations. And what do I mean exactly by innovation? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So there are ideas are plenty in organizations, especially today in the age of ChatGPT. You can generate a gazillion, infinite number of new ideas, but taking those ideas into reality in an existing organization, that's extremely hard. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So how do you get buy-in for your ideas? So the goal of today, during the webinar, is to think about innovation, the ideas you might have, the ideas you will have in the future, what needs change in your organization, and how do you get buy-in for those ideas? So how do you drive creativity throughout your organization? So this is kind of innovation 2.0. So it's not enough to have great ideas, but you need to get buy-in for those ideas. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And someone told me, Riitta, is it a little bit like, trying to push for support for your ideas? Like, you hop on a rocket ship to the moon and then you bring back maybe $1 million. And yes, that it's a little bit like that. I want you to do this because I want you to be excellent at your job. So turning big ideas into success, it's just not exciting. It's also important. It helps your company to stay competitive. When you innovate, your customers are happy. Those profits will flow in. Innovation ideas get implemented, and your firm will be around for the long run. There's also an unexpected bonus for you as a person, as an individual, as a team member, as a leader in the organization. When teams share ideas in the organization and teams feel that they are truly heard, it makes for a positive work environment, brings up productivity. So when you get credit for your ideas and somebody is actually listening, it matters. It makes you happier, makes you more productive at work. So productivity goes up. And finally, being recognized as somebody who is taking their ideas through, getting buy-in for your ideas, getting that implemented, it's important for today's job market as well. So getting buy-in for your innovation ideas, truly worth thinking about. So I want you to meet Marian. So Marian is on this slide. Marian grew up in Manhattan. She too had an idea, a very technical idea in her case. It was an idea around phone calls. And she wanted to sell this idea to her colleagues. So when she started working on her idea, and this was way back, this was year 1982, so 40 years ago, nobody in her organization believed in her. She found no support for the idea that in her mind, she knew that this idea was going to change the world. Okay. So no support. She felt very discouraged. Then one day something happened. She found one person, one level up in her organization, who after having a conversation with Marian, started believing in her idea and in her. And that person said, don't listen to the others. Just keep going as fast as you can. And after that conversation, Marian said, the feeling of being small altogether, that feeling left. And Marianne realized that her power was to fight for that idea. So fast forward 40 years, 2022, 40 years after she started working on her idea at Bell Labs, Marianne was inducted to Inventors Hall of Fame. So my point here is that just like her, you can create meaningful change in your organization and discover that after all, world is very, very open to change if you have the right tools. So what are some of the tools that I want to talk about with you today? So first, we'll talk about getting your idea out there for people to see. So how do you create visibility for your idea? Number two, we'll talk about how to get recognized as the main person behind the idea. So how do you get credit? How do you become the go-to person in the organization? And three, we really delve into finding a key supporter for your journey. So how do you identify your most powerful ally who's going to work with you to bring your idea to life? Just before we talk about those three things, why do we need to gain buy-in for ideas in our organization? So why do you need to sell? Or said differently, even if you're not in sales and marketing, why do you need to think about getting buy-in for your ideas? Because, selling is really hard. Getting buy-in for your great innovation ideas that will change your organization is difficult. And why is that? Because anything new is often seen as exactly the opposite to practical. So new ideas are far, far away in people's minds from practical implementable ideas. So they're kind of the opposite ends of a spectrum. And this is because the more novel the idea, the more uncertainty there exists in people's minds whether this idea is practical, can it be cost effective, can it be implementable, can it be profitable at the end, will it produce the idea and the results that we want. So what this means is people associate anything new, any new idea that you're going to propose with uncertainty. And people don't like uncertainty. And they start having these negative associations with new ideas because they're seen as very uncertain. So that's the bad news. New ideas, very far away, very uncertain from something that could be implemented. Now, the good news here is that there's much good data, much good research out there that shows that the bias against this uncertainty and bias against new ideas goes away when you build more tolerance in your audience, maybe in your idea, in yourself, more tolerance for uncertainty. So much of what the tools of this course try to do, and in this webinar today, is we try to bring together newness and practical and try to reduce that uncertainty in people's minds about how these ideas could actually get implemented. So let us get to work here. So the first point I want to talk about is how to create visibility for your idea. So if you think about this, even the best ideas in the world, they really don't get implemented unless they are top of mind. So those ideas that are visible for people, those ideas that are top of mind, they create urgency in the organization to implement that idea. So visible ideas become top of mind for people, and there's this urgency to implement them. So you need to create visibility, okay? To create visibility, better support you in your idea journey. So consider a couple of points here. So first, you want to ask, do other people actually know about your idea? So one simple way that people often forget about, and this is actually free, by the by, is to ask for feedback. So simple, free, and yet most of us don't think about this. Ask for feedback. So before you start selling, ask who is out there, others informally that you can ask feedback from. So this is important. Couple of reasons. First, it's need finding, and that's good. So you can improve your idea. But even more importantly, when you ask for feedback, that starts to create awareness around your idea. Okay? So think about visibility, top of mind, urgency to implement. Ask for feedback and people start thinking about this idea. Okay. So the second point to think about is, who should I go for feedback? So this initial feedback, when you have a budding idea, who are the right people to go to? So generally you want to think about people who appreciate something new. So you want to create this positive buzz around your idea. So you want to go to those people who really value new things. So who has the best sense in your organization? Which ideas have potential? Who appreciates the new things? And the first thought in my mind, in your mind, might be, oh, okay, I go to my manager, I go to my boss's boss, I might go to my senior mentor, but wait. Turns out that managers are often pretty bad at seeing the value in new ideas. Their first response is often a no. So to get to the bottom of why managers are so down on new ideas, I want to talk about some research that was done by Justin Burke here at Stanford. My colleague, he is a former circus performer himself. So this study was done with creators and managers who were former creators in a circus. So this is what he did. So he tracked individuals with similar skills, similar backgrounds working in circus. They were all creators of new circus acts. And for this experiment, he split the creators in two groups. One half of these individuals retained their creator job. So they were thinking about creating new acts for circus. The other half, he placed them, these same people that were very good creators, in a managerial role. Keep in mind that these two groups have exactly the same level of expertise. They were creators. They've been in the organization about the same time. Now, after a few months, both of these groups hold their roles. After a few months, he asked both groups to come back and come in and judge the potential of new circus acts. So basically evaluate whether they thought a particular new circus act was worth implementing. Someone had pitched a new circus act, and the job of these people were to evaluate whether this was promising or not. Okay. And so this is basically asking for feedback, right? Okay. So what he found was striking differences across the two groups. So first, let's take the creators. The creators who were creators and still were holding their creator jobs. They actually had phenomenal potential to predict whether something will be a real hit in an actual circus. So they were really good predictors of what new ideas should be implemented in the organization. Now let's look at the managers. So the managers, very interestingly, those individuals who had all the creative background, but had held a managerial job for a few months, they had started, very interestingly, undervaluing new ideas. These managers voted to implement very conventional, very low risk performances. So they were kind of turned in terrible predictors of what might be a valuable idea. Okay, so bottom line here, do not ask the managers. Okay, some of my own work here, we work together with a team in the medical device industry, very, very different setting, and very, very similar results. Managers' job is to say no, prevent failure all day long, and they tend to undervalue novel ideas because their everyday job is to prevent failure from happening. So don't ask the managers. So who should you turn to? What about fellow team members? They're close by. So would they be a good potential group to ask feedback from? So probably again a no. And here's why. So your fellow team members, they might again be risk averse. And this is why they might prefer what's already out there, kind of the status quo. And often because of not invented here, NIH, because the basic tendency of all of us is to resist anything that you didn't create. So if they didn't create something, they probably are not going to value it as much as you think they should. Okay, so again, they might not be the best candidate. And unless you involve them in creation of the idea, they probably love things as they are. Okay, so who do we turn to for this initial feedback? So the solution that we often forget, but you should think about is fellow innovators. So ask feedback from others in your organization. The fellows, like-minded people, they have no horse in the race, yet they have very good taste for new things. And they're very likely to provide the best advice and the best feedback. So if these fellow innovators are also respected by your ultimate audience, all the better. So think about whether your leaders, if that's who you're selling to, they have a specific group of people they go for advice, whose opinions they really respect. So if these leaders go to the fellow innovators, this might be the group where you want to get your initial feedback from. And they will help you keep the idea on the table, that urgency, hopefully recognize the potential, help you create visibility for your idea. And when they have an idea they want to sell one day, maybe they can turn to you for feedback. Okay, so asking for feedback, fellow innovators are the go-to people. Now, what can go wrong? So what are some of the mistakes here that we often tend to make when we ask for feedback? Well, what can go wrong? So if you think about it, it's really your idea. So your first reaction, my first instinct is to claim ownership. You were the first one to came up with this idea. Why are we talking about getting feedback? Why are we talking about getting somebody else involved in this process of selling or even developing the idea if you're going to get feedback? So isn't it fair that you get the full credit? Why would you ask anybody else? So you might be shooting yourself in the foot here. So the reason is, several years ago, I actually was working in a volunteer organization. And one of the more senior leaders who was in this organization in the meetings with me, was always asking for feedback from others. And I found it, I have to admit, a little bit annoying. Like this person, back in my mind, I was thinking, doesn't this person really have any ideas of their own? Like always asking for feedback and, like almost, okay, I had to be there to help this person. Took me quite a while to realize that, yes, this person actually had a lot of ideas, but what this person was doing, they were getting buy-in for their ideas. And that's the secret of why they were so senior. So many effective sellers, they perfected this skill over the years. So they invite others to co-create. And this will pay off. I guarantee you, this will pay off in the long run. So participation, powerful tool of persuasion, right? It's still your idea, I promise, but it's just getting better. So just think about this. Has anybody asked you for feedback lately? So how did it make you feel? feels flattering, right? You feel valued. They are asking for your opinion, right? You kind of feel special, provides validation that your opinions do matter. So that's exactly how other people will feel when you go to them and ask for feedback on your idea. So you are inviting them to co-create with you, to join in this fun innovation journey. It's not a bother for them, but in fact, by asking feedback, you create a connection with them. They feel their expertise is valued, that you actually care. And as a result, they want to be part of this. They actually want to help you. So bottom line is, it's important to realize how we all typically react to feedback. But feedback is not criticism. It's actually a helpful gift. So one example I want to take is actually take us to Hollywood. So I talked to Kim Elsbach, who is a graduate of our management science and engineering department and an organizations expert. And she studies script writers in Hollywood and how they go about selling a novel idea. And Kim shared this advice from a seasoned expert in the industry. And this expert noted, if you're pitching a new script, so you're pitching a new idea, whatever the executives, so these are the executives on the other side of the table from you, add to your pitch should be greeted with a great deal of enthusiasm and, if you can muster it, awe. Because once they start investing their own creative juices, you are getting closer to the money. So point is, feedback is a gift. Be open to feedback. Increase your chances of gaining traction for your idea. So how will this work informally for you? Probably start getting feedback from your friend, a colleague you see this week. Some people show up late to meetings, early to meetings, they stay longer, strike up a conversation. So that would be a good way. There are also a couple of tricks about getting feedback. So 2 specific suggestions I have here. First recommendation is about the level of detail. Ask for high level, big picture reactions first. So why do I say high level? Because it's very easy to get defensive when someone attacks the specifics of your idea. And then, what's the point of asking for feedback if you're not going to follow up, if you just defend the original idea, right? So stay at the high level first. And the second, ask for 2 kinds of feedback, positive and negative. So our teaching team at Stanford, we have a routine with our students in the classroom. What we try to do is to take a particular class session or maybe the entire course to the next level. So we give students an index card. So on one side of the card, we ask the students, please write down what you liked about this class. What resonated with you. And on the other side of the card, what do you wish we had done differently? So we ask for both positive and negative feedback. Several things happen here. So we see that sometimes students have quite opposite reactions. So it's good to see both the weaknesses and strengths of the course, so you kind of see the variety. What other reasons for asking both positives and negatives? I like everybody else. I get very defensive about feedback. So when I'm about to dismiss something, when someone doesn't like what I'm doing, I flip that card and I see the positive side of things, which then helps me tackle the negative. And what's more, through this feedback process with the audience, the students in this case, we debrief with them, we drive home the point that this is co-creation. This is not a one-way street. We are all in this together. We are co-creating our learning process in this class. So next time, when you ask for feedback, ask for negatives, but don't forget to add the positives, the strengths. What is it that other people like about your idea? And you'll be surprised how well this actually works. Okay. One final comment about feedback I wanted to make. Always follow up. So tell people how the idea worked. Thank them for their feedback. Even if it's some small changes that you made in your idea, it's worth mentioning. They know that their feedback was not wasted, their time was not wasted. It reminds them of the idea. It recreates visibility in their minds for you and your idea. So lower your natural guard and make the most of feedback and create visibility. So next I want to talk about how you want to build expertise around your idea. So one way to create visibility is to consider how you can build up your own reputation so you stand out as the expert in that particular area in your organization. So how do you do this? You can be very, very proactive about this step. So volunteer for a task force that's maybe relevant to your idea, share relevant news. There's a colleague of mine who works in a competition policy area. He started sharing on LinkedIn news about competition policy, putting a little bit of an academic spin. All of a sudden, he becomes a go-to person in that topic. So there are different little tricks you can use here. Maybe on Slack, you post things that are relevant to your area of expertise. Of course, first, you have to build up your expertise in the area. So if others know what you've achieved, you perceive you as the expert, they will be more open to listening to your ideas. So that's the idea. Give you more leverage, more visibility for your idea. Again, okay, what can go wrong? So now you're getting this feedback, you're becoming the expert. Other people come to you, they have lots of ideas. There is such thing as listening too much. So trying to please everyone. So feedback is good, but when does feedback become too much of a good thing? So tipping point is when you overreact, you start pivoting too much. You're too swayed by feedback and you lose sight of your original idea. I was talking to a manager. In this case, this was a C-level manager. And this manager, very successful one in their role, when I asked, what's behind your success? This person said, I never tell others about my plan B. They only hear about my plan A. And this person said, sometimes I'm actually criticized for that, but I only visibly promote plan A. And why is this? Similarly, you might be wondering, because people are giving me feedback, I'm getting all of these good ideas and they might be taking me to another place. Maybe I should have a couple of different ideas in my back pocket, just in case, the main one doesn't work, or maybe this other one might please people better. Probably not a good idea. So if you want to be successful at moving your idea through the organization, pick one solid idea, not several halfway ideas. You want to give an impression that you're serious about your ideas. You're going to take this main idea through. You are the master of it, and you're going to be selling it through. You're going to sing it through. So I want to take you again back to Hollywood and look at Kim's quest to understand how script writers work this system. So again, this is what Kim was sharing with me. This is one of her interviews from with a writer producer in Hollywood. So you should never pitch more than one, maybe two, but really one idea at a time. Never. What you're selling is your passion. There's not a buyer in the world you can convince that you have the same passion for 5 different projects. The third point and the final point in our conversation today I wanted to bring up is step 3 in creating visibility for your idea. So what else can you do? So you can identify sidekicks. You can identify supporters for your idea. So the idea here, my suggestion for you here is that your supporters, your sidekicks, maybe your coworkers in the organization, they can become powerful supporters and advocates for your idea. So start thinking about who these sidekicks, who these allies could be. And practical advice is to think about, who is raising similar types of issues in all hands meetings, on Slack. And they can really become powerful sidekicks and supporters. And why does this matter? Why do I have 57% there? Because if another person talks you or your idea up, it's 57% more likely to be accepted by managers than if you do the talking yourself on the behalf of your own idea. So basically, managers are 57% more likely to be positively inclined and influenced by your idea if somebody else is saying great things about your idea. So identifying these sidekick supporters, super important. It's effective selling. Your sidekicks and also can be very helpful in testing, in vetting your idea. So again, there are multiple things they can do for you. So the point is here again, although it's all your idea, it's your baby, I know, but selling solo is very, very difficult. So think about who else can be in your team. So couple of things about the best sidekicks. And here I want to go back to a recent project I did with a couple of my colleagues around video game developers. Okay, and these video game developers, they were picking sidekicks. In their case, it was picking video game publishers. And I wanted to share this because the video game developers were really savvy about their choices of which publishers they wanted to get as their sidekicks. So a couple of key takeaways for you here. So first, make a list of what you are good at. And then based on that list, what do you need from others? So very simple, but effective. So point is to inventory your own expertise. Number two, make sure you know and think about what your sidekick has to offer. Will they, most importantly, have the time? Will they have the resources to help you? Will you have to share your sidekick's attention with other peers who are perhaps also seeking for their attention? This is big fish, big pond, right? And then number three, there are partnering trade-offs. If you're an inexperienced in your organization, don't hesitate to partner with smaller sidekicks. They might have more time. They might be just starting out as sidekicks, and they will devote time for your development. They can afford perhaps the personalized attention you need. They might help really develop your idea. And in turn, if you're more experienced, don't hesitate to seek out sort of bigger ponds, bigger, more experienced sidekicks. Okay. So let's look at the final mistake. So again, what can go wrong? So often when you get excited about your idea and you perfect it, you hone it, and it becomes, you have the perfect story around it, we tend to forget that who you actually are as a person, the carrier of the message, that also matters a great deal. You are not only selling the idea, you are selling actually yourself. So what does this mean? So how do you bring your whole self to the process of getting buy-in? So first, bring your expertise to the meeting. So it's all about credibility. Remind them how this idea links to what you learned through a previous project, what you learned from a customer, what you were trained in. Maybe, you have an engineering background, or maybe you did marketing in your previous job, or maybe you are super good at coding. So something that's relevant to your idea selling. Maybe you organized events in your previous job. So the point is, if you look the part, you really bring out, you tell them your expertise, you're perceived as an expert, you will have the ability to influence behavior, influence decisions. So build up that credibility to be seen as an expert. And my hunch is that this may be actually less challenging than you think. If you have an idea in mind that you want to get implemented in your organization, we all have a natural tendency to think about and promote ideas that are close to what we care about, what we already know about. So we often want to speak up about issues that relate to our expertise in what we do every day, what we actually know about. So this might be easier, this building expertise, this really seen as an expert might be much easier than you think. So my hunch is your idea might be something that you already know, you care a great deal about, probably more than anybody else in your organization. So simply put, you are the author, you are the expert. And that's just something that you need to highlight. And what expertise is relevant? So you are experts in your jobs, you have life, educational, work experiences. Think about what expertise you want to highlight here. It's like casting for a play. So if you've been part of a play, maybe part of a community play, you heard casting directors explain their choices. This is the same concept. So you need to make the casting choices. You need to highlight areas of your expertise that matter here. So this is kind of a person role or a person role and pitch fit. You need to be credible for your audience. So when that actor in that community play walks on stage, the audience needs to believe in them. So you can't hire a 5-year-old who is hilarious in SpongeBob and then think the same actor can play a lead role in Percy Jackson, which is kind of teenager play. So you need a teenager to make the sell in Percy Jackson. So the same thing happening here. Final words of advice from Hollywood here and from Kim. You're rarely selling the idea. You are selling you are selling your commitment and your point of view. So best of luck promoting your ideas and getting traction for your ideas. And I'm now turning it over back to Robin.
Hi, Riitta. I'm here. That was wonderful. I really loved everything that you had to share there. We are getting tons of questions in. This is so exciting. I saw so many emojis. I saw so many hearts come up. I saw so many thumbs up. So let's dive into some of these questions. Look, there's 2 more hearts right there. Okay.
Aww,
right? That's great. Everyone, thanks so much for being here. We really love the interaction between everyone who shows up for these. So thank you so much. Riitta, thanks so much. It's been great. So let's dive into some questions here. Riitta, Natalie wants to know, do you have any advice for how I can have my ideas heard beyond my boss? I feel like a small cog in a huge organization and it's hard to be heard.
Oh, that's a super good question. Thank you, Natalie. So one of the things we didn't have time for today, but think about, what are everybody's goals in the organization? There might be somebody else in another team, maybe another director in a different team than yours, whose job is to get things around your idea done. So basically think about who is excited, whose job is to do something around the goals of your idea and align your idea with one of their goals. So it doesn't need to be your own team's responsibility. And it might be an idea that's not super relevant to your boss, but it might be relevant to somebody else in the organization. And you just need to find that person who, there's again the fit between the idea and the person who needs it.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. For me, I work a lot cross-functionally. And so I get to work with other team members who I know are excited about specific topics. So going outside your manager and going over to someone else who you know is excited about something and getting them on board for it. And this is in line, this question from Natalie is in line from something I saw that just came in from Carl. Carl said, I've tried to brief my manager before meetings so that he has a holistic understanding of the idea of the proposal. So, and he said, I subliminally try to transfer ownership of my ideas to my manager so that I can get buy-in from the team, but it has failed every single time. Any recommendations? Riitta, you and I have talked about this, and you said something that I think this is in the course too. You said something when you're trying to appeal to your manager, think about what their goals are and what leadership is asking from your manager. And then also sometimes you can bring in a personal element. Riitta, do you remember you said, what if you have a boss who's really interested in baseball and you start talking to them and you say, hey, I think this idea is a home run. How can we take this idea to the next level? I really loved those little kinds of things that you can do.
It's one of the things is, like you just said, it's the vocab. It's really the vocabulary. Use the terms. It's the liking principle. What is it that you have in common? How can you talk in terms that your boss or your boss's boss understands? The other tip, well, I actually did this myself. I will reveal this. In a previous organization, we used to have all hands, and they would sometimes give out handouts. I would pay attention when somebody was talking about our teams and our organization's goals for the next year or next 5 years. And I actually take that handout and I stick it on my office wall. And there I have the goals. I have what's important, not only for me, but what I know is important for my managers, one level up, couple of levels up, and I have the language right.
Absolutely. I think it's all about language. You know that old game called Balderdash, and you get a word and you're supposed to like make up the definition. You might not even know what the word is, but you're supposed to make up the definition. Think about when you look up a definition in the dictionary, it says similar to, and you just make it up. It's all about the language. I totally agree with you in order to get something to move forward.
But Robin, wait. One thing is you have to get to know others in your organization. You don't know what their language is. What is it that you and your idea and your expertise has in common with somebody else? So to get to that same wavelength and the sort of a similar language and terms, you really need to first figure out what do they care about? What's their passion? How does it align with your passion?
I agree, because if it doesn't align with your passion and there's not that overlap, then you're probably not going to be very, very passionate about moving it forward. So it's about the overlap. I love that. Okay, next question. Laura wants to know, how do you know if an idea is worth fighting for and championing?
Ooh, that's a good one. Thank you, Laura. Something that I think about here is, think about how the sidekicks, how the allies that we talked about, how do they come in? So you probably have somebody who can become your sidekick. We talked about, how to identify who has time, who might actually want to be your sidekick. Present your idea to them and see, what is gaining traction, where hear them out, you gain valuable feedback, and you can validate, you can help fine-tune your idea. So that's sort of how I think about which idea is worth fighting for.
I agree.
Yeah, and if they're super excited, or if there's no excitement at all, that's kind of a good pulse.
Yeah, I agree. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you abandon your idea. Maybe it's about a pivot, but it has to be a pivot that's well informed and something that you're still excited about, that you didn't change your whole idea just because of a piece of feedback from your ally. So I think that allies and sidekicks are valuable on so many levels. And you've said that to me like repeatedly. So I really appreciate thinking about not just your idea in your own little silo, but who can you bring in and what can they provide you? And I think this is a good example. So Laura, thank you so much for your question. Okay. Let's see. James wants to know, this all sounds great, but if I want to begin tomorrow establishing myself as an expert, what's the top thing I should do? Of course, this is very subjective. There are always different top things that you can do. But Riitta, what would you tell James?
Establishing myself as an expert. So I know James, right? James, I know James has a lot of expertise. You probably have many things you already know. So I'm not going to say build your expertise because you already have it, but it's just letting others know. Just talking to others. We talked about a few ways to create, digital visibility, or, show up early, strike up a conversation with a colleague about what is important to you. I'm an introvert, so I sometimes script if I know I'm going to a meeting or to a dinner with a bunch of people. I kind of script what I want to talk if I strike. I'm really extreme. Don't script your conversations, but I kind of think about, this person might be a good ally for me, and they might actually not know what I'm doing. So just a small thing. Start building that visibility.
I agree.
And
please go ahead.
No, go ahead, Robin.
In general, I think that we all are experts in many things within our lives, but if we're not sharing that expertise with others, then they don't know we're experts in it. And maybe you're not an expert in the thing that you have a good idea for, but I bet you could become one. I bet you could do some research. I bet you could go to an event or a conference or have a conversation or find an article or take a course about it. And then you become an expert in what you want to do. And you just need to share it. You just need to get that visibility.
And we all do things outside our jobs that build up visibility. You might be working at your kid's school. You might be doing voluntary activities. All those are super helpful.
I agree. Bring your life into your job. I think that's a great take home. Thanks, Riitta. Okay, absolutely. Next question. Jonathan. Jonathan says, hey, I have 3 ideas. Which one should I prioritize?
Ooh, okay. So think about this like as a Venn diagram in a sense. So let's start. Okay, I'm going to do Dave Letterman style here. So start with number 3. So think about, is there money, budget, time, resources available for the idea? Think about the audience. So that's number 2. What's important for your boss or any audience you are selling your idea to. But then number 1, and all of these are important, but I would still say number 1 is your passion. It's really about what you want to sell. And it shows if you're passionate about your idea, people really realize it's golden. You smile and you can't stop talking about it. And they know you will follow up and you will be there to see this idea through. It's almost like our graduate students, when they're looking for their thesis topics, they're saying, I have these 3 topics, all of them sound really good, which one should I pick? And ultimately, pick the one that you're passionate about, because people will see it, you will care, you will want to be promoting this idea and doing, in our case, doing research around it for a long time. So I would pick passion as number 1, but don't forget that it also needs to be top of mind and important for others. And then there needs to be the budget for it, of course.
I agree. So I love the idea of the Venn diagram because you can see where the overlap is. And if you lead with passion, but also is there interest in it? Is there budget in it? Are other people going to think this is the thing? I think that that's a really good roadmap because this isn't, selling your ideas within your organization isn't a recipe. It's more of an art. And you've managed to put a framework around it too, which is really great. So then you have lots of tools for it as well.
And I would also say something, congratulations, you had 3 ideas or a lot of ideas, which is great. So we all have good ideas. We just sometimes tend to think, I don't have any ideas, but you have more ideas than you think.
I agree. And coming on the tail end of 3 ideas, which one should I prioritize? I'm seeing a lot of questions and a lot of comments from multiple people, probably 7 different people asking, what if someone steals your idea? How do I know who to go to talk about my idea with? And I have some thoughts on this. I'm sure you do as well, Riitta, about how to, think about this in terms of stealing ideas. Do you have some thoughts on this for us?
So let me put first my academic hat on. When I was very
Okay.
junior in my profession, this was my number one worry, that somebody would steal my idea, would steal my great dissertation topic, because after all, you devote years and you do research and you get the data, and it takes a long time. So I would wake up in the morning and worry that somebody else has published my idea. But turns out, there's a couple of things. First, it's never the same idea. If it's related, it won't be the same. It's still your idea, your passion. Number two, actually, that's great news, because that's the community. Now you have people who care about the same things. This is actually valuable. So you could, maybe these become your sidekicks. Maybe you do this together. I think people are too afraid of stealing ideas. We need more action selling our ideas rather than worrying that somebody else will steal them. But I'm with you. I was there and I was so worried, because I felt it's my baby, and how can I get it out soon enough before somebody else thinks about it? The other thing is, people have lots of ideas, but who is going to actually implement that idea? That really matters.
Yes, I agree. Bob Sutton always says, innovation is creativity plus implementation. We all can have 1,000 ideas, but who's going to actually implement it? If you're going to be the person that implement it, that's your idea. I mean, it doesn't, take it as I love that reframe you gave of take it as a compliment. If someone wants to take your idea, that's a pretty good idea. Bring them along, bring them on board, strengthen numbers, and, have those conversations with them. I really love that. For sure.
And go talk to them, say, could
Yeah.
we do this together?
Yeah. I always think of it as having a flotilla of support for every idea that you bring forward. If I'm by myself, but and I also loved how you said, evaluate your allies. What is your skill set? What is an ally's skill set that you can identify, and how could it help move your idea forward? I think that's extremely valuable thing to do when you're thinking about it.
And something that we often forget.
Yes, because we're scared someone's going to take our idea.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Andrea wants to know, could you give me another example of who I could tap as an ally? Where can I look?
So we talked about the fellow innovators, and I'm often thinking about people who have ideas, and in all hands, they might post ideas on Slack, and that's really your support group. That's the group in your organization where you want to go and you want to hang out with them, and you want to that's a safe space for your ideas, to test your ideas. So I would really go to that group. We also have friends outside work. So another person in another organization could be an ally in interesting ways. So there are many places to look.
I agree. And that's right in line with a question here from Juliana. She says, how can you test your own ideas before you present them? You've just answered that. So you could test them by having conversations with people around you, with your sidekicks and your allies. And then Juliana says, are there any go-to questions or themes you can think through to make your idea bulletproof? Bulletproof. We all wish our ideas were bulletproof, right? Bulletproof or stronger before you share it. I think it's just about shoring it up to a reasonable level. What do you think about that, Riitta, in response to Juliana's question? Are there any questions or themes you can think through to make your idea stronger before you share it?
Oh, absolutely. So there are a couple. I'm thinking about the course, and I think it's really helpful here in terms of just building your idea from the ground up, step by step. And we talked about thinking about your audience. Who are you selling to? That's one of the most important things to think about. An idea can be bulletproof in one context, but in another organization, it might not be urgent, might not be top of mind. So it depends. It totally depends. It depends on your idea. It depends on to whom you are selling, where you are selling, what's important in the organization right now. So I would say there's a lot of homework for you to do to figure out how to bulletproof your idea. But it starts with thinking about, who needs this right now? Who's the audience? And getting that feedback, really getting those reactions. Robin, you always have great ideas. How do you bulletproof your ideas?
Yeah, I think the first thing is sometimes if we get so involved in trying to bulletproof our idea, we'll get paralyzed in our timeline of what we're doing with our idea. Sometimes it's about, yes, get feedback, but maybe when you go to present your idea, rarely do we ever present an idea and you get like this flashing green light of go, 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 what a great idea. A lot of times you get suggestions back that you'll pivot your idea a little bit. Maybe you'll make some changes, make some suggestions. I remember co-creating an idea with a colleague of mine, and we had a great idea that we wanted to create this women's community of having conversations, and it was called Women Rise. We went on to create it, and we had a timeline that we wanted to roll this out. We went to leadership, we presented it, and they said, well, we think this is a great idea. However, what if instead of the timeline you're suggesting, we did this and we did this, and we pivoted based on that, and it was better. It was better for the amount of work for functional teams. So my advice to everyone, and to Juliana, who asked this great question, thanks so much, Juliana, is yes, you want to get your idea strong, but don't get in, maybe avoid making it so bulletproof so you never move it forward because you're worried about it getting shot down. It's okay. And, feedback, as you said, it's not a problem. It's a gift. It's a gift to get feedback. So thank you.
And everybody has long careers ahead of them. So this is, if the first doesn't work, there's another chance, another opportunity. And what I love, by the by, about the course is we're talking to real people with real ideas they want to sell and they sold, or we're trying to get buy-in for. So it's kind of, we have these individual case studies in the course. So we're hearing from real people. So that's so
Absolutely
valuable about this to me.
Riitta Katila, thank you so much for being here with us today. Everyone out there, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate it. Every comment, every question, every emoji you put across the screen. Thanks so much, and really appreciate it. Riitta, thank you again.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
It was. Signing off from Stanford, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.